Hare Krishna. So welcome all the devotees for today's session on Nectar of Instruction. The details of the book which is going to take us nearer to Lord Krishna. So we continue this discussion as we have been doing till now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudire nashtaprayeshu abhatreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki नाना शास्त्र विचारने का निपुणौ सद्धर्म संस्थापकौ लोकानां हितकारिणौ त्रिभुवने मान्यौ शरण्याकरौ राधा कृष्ण पदारविंद भजनानंदेन मत्तालिकौ वंदे रूप सनातनौ रघुयुगौ श्री जीव गोपालकौ. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Sanatan Goswami, Shri Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami, Shri Jiva Goswami, and Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the three worlds and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha Krishna. So let us summarize what we have read till now. So Nectar of Instruction, the book with the 11 shlokas, is going to help us develop through the 9 progressive stages of bhakti, from Shraddha, that is little faith, to Sadhu-sangah, association of pure devotees, bhajana kriya, practices of hearing and chanting, and various devotional activities, anartha nivritti, the cleansing of the heart, Nishta, firm faith and steadiness, Ruchi, taste and attraction, Asakti, attachment, Bhava, preliminary stage of transcendental love, and finally, Prema, the fully developed love of God. So all this in 11 verses, the first 3 verses, developing of our Shraddha, the first verse making us aware about controlling the mind and senses, second verse which I started since yesterday, making us aware about the unfavorable things for Krishna consciousness. Then next week we'll be seeing the favorable things for Krishna consciousness. Text 4 to 6 about 6 about Sadhu-sangah, that is text 4 about the living exchanges between devotees, text 5 how to deal with the different types of devotees, and text 6 not the aspects not to be done in the dealings. Text 7 will be specifically about bhajan kriya, anartha nivritti and nishta ruchi, which will make us understand the glories of the holy name. Text 8 will make us understand about asakti, about meditation on Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. And the last shlokas will help us to move from bhava to prema, to make us understand how residence is in Krishna, Radha Krishna and its glories. The first shloka which we saw, Vacho vegam manasaha, krodha vegam, jivva vegam, udaropastha vegam, etan vegam anya vishehet, dhira sarvam api ma prithivim sashishya. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So what we have understood in this first particular shloka is we started off with Maharaj Parikshit's take on atonement. So we saw the analogies of elephant and bar, thief and police and confessions. Then we understood what is the real atonement, which is awakening dormant Krishna consciousness. So it's a tapasya, wherein we require training according to the regulative principles and methodical life. So the traditional tapasya is wherein we have celibacy, austerity, we maintain, we have complete mind and sense control, we have truthfulness, renunciation, cleanliness, and yoga. And then the Pancharatrika tapasya, wherein we have understood about the practicing bhakti under Guru's guidance in association of devotees and following the regulative principles, that is not to act in such a way that the regulative principles are disturbed. So after that we moved to the application part, wherein we understood from Srila Prabhupada's purport about the problem with vachaha being that it's like kämis and grannies, wherein they're speaking uselessly and attracting the snake or the death, just like a toad is attracting the snake. The solution is Krishna Katha. Then we understood that for manasa, mind, the problem is it cannot remain in vacuum, and that is why it attracts anarthas. So the solution is meditate on the lotus feet of Krishna. So there we saw the example of sun and Krishna, how sun can vanish the darkness. Similarly, the availability of Krishna will vanish the anarthas. Krodha or anger, the problem being it cannot be stopped at all. And the solution is that we apply it against the blasphemers. So there we saw the examples of Jagai, Madaya, Hanuman, and Arjuna. Regarding Jivva, the problem is it is forcing us to eat in karmi shops. And the solution, to have prasad. We have to be grateful when Krishna supplies and accept it as mercy and ensure that we have it only on scheduled times. Then for Udarapasta, what we have seen in Prabhupada's purport is to avoid any kind of unnecessary sex unless it is for getting Krishna consciousness. Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur distributed the urges into three types, those of speech, mind, and body. For speech, as usual, again it was Prajalpa, wherein he gives examples of skarmis, gyanis, and karmakandis, and the solution he has mentioned to always be busy with Harikatha. For mind, he made us understand about the avirod kruti as well as virud yukta krodha, that is unrestricted attachment and anger due to frustration. So that can be resolved only when we have mind concentrating only on Krishna. Regarding body, so the problems are with the tongue, belly, and genitals, which come in the one single line starting from the tongue. So for tongue, the problems and the solutions we have seen, like we say, as Bhaktivinoda Thakurji gave us the prasadam prayers, or what we mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Anya Leela. So there are 6 types of demands by the tongue, about tongue, dead bodies, Raja demand for spicy food, Sattvic demands for milk and grains, Mahatamaha demands for intoxicants, Prasadaha demand for offering delicious food. And then unfortunately, we want to eat more and more. And so we visit the Grihasthas who can give more food, that is visiting the mansions. Belly, it's a disease, a stomach disease, and the solution is that we should keep fasting for Ekadashi and festivals, just like we fasted on Ram Navami and yesterday for the Ekadashi. And today, in fact, the fast breaking time was 10:53 a.m. onward. So we all fasted till 10:53. So that is how we control the belly. For genitals, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur clearly mentioned that there are 5 types of illegal activities, even thinking, even planning, even talking, doing, and definitely artificial. And the solution was going in for the legal activities, that is only for marriage and for getting the Krishna conscious kills. So the summary was that we can serve only one master. If we serve the senses, then we become Godas or Adanta Go, that is servant of the senses. And if we serve Krishna, we become Goswami or controller of the senses. And that is what we have taught. So Krishna consciousness is the best solution to control the 6 urges. Then we started the second shloka. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpa niyamagraha Jana-sangah laulyamcha shadvir bhakti vinashyati. So once devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1. Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2. Over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently of himself. 5. Associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6. Being greedy for mundane achievements. So the focus of the second shloka is basically about avoiding the 6 activities, the gains which we'll achieve by avoiding them, and the losses that we'll have by not avoiding the 6 activities. So coming to Atyahar, which means that we are going to be taking more. So it is not only related to food, but even related to bringing about or taking more than what we require of any aspect. So it can be divided into 3 categories as per religion, as per philosophy, and as per the welfare activity. So using dharma for the sake of material prosperity only and not for ultimate emancipation, again is an atyahar. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has said that the karmis who are writing volumes on economic development, There also atyahar, because the result is absolutely zero. So we saw the analogy of the cobbler, that there was a great, I'll say, karmi, a businessman who created so much of wealth for his children, because we are not aware what our tomorrow is going to be. So we keep on preparing wealth, we keep on running after money, we keep on accumulating wealth, so that if in future we require wealth, we should always have it. And that is where we make a mistake. We feel that tomorrow we may be able to use, but when the death strikes, we don't know. And that is something which happened in this case of this rich person who died. And such was the providence that he took birth again in the house of a cobbler who was living just besides his rich palatial mansion. And when he took birth, he again went back to his own mansion which he had created. But lo, his children, his sons, his grandsons, they absolutely bet him and threw him out of the house. So what was the use of his working so hard for preparing something which he could not use in his own lifetime, neither in future lifetime? And that is where it is useless. Any kind of economic development, achhe din, is not what the activities are. And same way goes with the Danis, who endeavor for mental speculation or dry philosophy. But the result is useless. We see the fight always going on between capitalists and communists. Capitalists want everything about for themselves, and communists want to use everything for the society. But the result is both of them are wrong. We saw the example of the $100 bill as well. The reason is why all this is wrong, because nothing belongs to either a capitalist or even a communist. Everything belongs to Krishna. Isha vasyam idam sat. So this whole material arrangement is done in such a way that the living needs of all living entities is fulfilled. So we should not be encroaching upon others' quota. So human life is very important. It is meant for plain living and high. So God's natural arrangement is available. Even if we live with some small land and a milk cow, that is sufficient. That is the solution for all economic problems. We need not travel from one place to another place for livelihood. And then when there is a lockdown because of Corona, just walk to go to our own place. The purpose of higher intelligence is cultivating Krishna consciousness. We have to understand God, our relationship with Him, and the ultimate goal, which is the love of Godhead. Then prayasa is over endeavor. The problem is we misuse the higher intelligence and it leads to the over endeavor, because we are rejecting simple living, high thinking. We consider this idea to be primitive, so it leads to production of unwanted and unnecessary things, just like factories, slaughterhouses, brothels, liquor shop. And the problem to over endeavor, which is the biggest problem, is less time for inquiry. Solution is inquire into the absolute truth, or reduce the endeavor for artificial needs. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. So we saw the shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam for this, of the first canto itself. Kamasya nendriya pritilabho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa nartho yacha iha karmabhi. So life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life of self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's life. So what we understand, or what is the result of this, is that if our endeavor is not to inquire about the absolute truth, will simply increase our endeavor to satisfy our artificial needs. A spiritual aspirant should avoid mundane endeavor. Om Agyantimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So we are at that particular mode of this particular chapter wherein we are understanding so many aspects of how, why we are here and what we have to avoid. Because if you don't avoid these things, we'll not be able to move further. We'll keep on getting ourselves repeatedly into the cycle of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi and end up in a situation wherein we go to the Andhatta Mahaloka, as you have seen while discussing the Ishopanishad. So it is important that with all this knowledge in place, we develop and run fast on the path back home, back to Krishna consciousness. And how to traverse that path, how we can be successful is something that we are discussing with this particular book, with this particular discourse and discussions on Updeshamrita. So second shloka started off making us aware about the 6 things that we need to avoid specifically, because they are the ones which are going to be destroying our bhakti. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpa niyamagraha Jana-sangah laulyam cha shadvir bhakti vinashyati. So yesterday we saw about atyahar, that is eating or collecting more than what we require. We also understood about the prayasa, over-endowment, so that we keep on getting more. So what our discussion is going to be today is about the other 4 aspects. That is Prajalpa, the kind of talking that we unnecessarily keep ourselves engaged in. Niyamagraha, the agraha word here can be used as agraha as well as agraha. So that is what we discuss in further today. Then Jana-sangah, and finally the laulyam part, that is being greedy. So let us start by first revising about the 3 energies of Lord Krishna. So we touched this topic yesterday also, that Krishna has 3 energies. The Antaranga Shakti, which is the internal potency of Lord Krishna, the Tathastha Shakti, or the marginal potency, or the living entities like you and me, they are all Tathastha Shakti, and the Bahiranga Shakti, or the external potency. Now, why we are revising these 3 again is whatever we are going to discuss about the next 4, the reason why we need to understand them rise in this particular manner. Because we living entities, we are somehow or the other submerged, sandwiched, I'll say, between the Antaranga Shakti and the Bahiranga Shakti. When we are surrendering, taking full shelter of the Antaranga Shakti is Srimati Radharani, or her expansion as Lakshmi Devi. That is the internal potency of Lord Krishna. So when we are taking her Sharanagati, then we need not worry. We are in the right place. We are doing the right activity for what we are there. That is always being a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. And then we need not worry. We are actually Krishna Das. But the moment we rebel, we come out of it. And that is where our problems start. Because then the Bahiranga Shakti, or the external potency, starts poking us, starts giving us trouble, because finally we become the Maya Das. The result is we are always trouble, some way or the other. Distress, depression, anxiety, sorrow, whatever we face, it's all the effect of this Maya Shakti. Because we are not serving what we should be serving. We have become a Das, but now we have become a Maya Das. And the result is Sada Udaas. Always unhappy. But if you had been Krishna Das, then Bindas. No worries. Because Krishna is the ultimate owner of everything. He owns the Shadbir, all the six opulences. So whatever we want, he'll take care. We have seen drivers. There are drivers, we drive vehicle. There are some people who are rich, they keep drivers to drive their vehicle. And we also have certain super rich people like Ambanis who also have drivers. Now, when we ourselves are trying to drive, do we get any earning? No. When we have certain other rich people who are giving money to the driver, how much money they get? Yes, the money. But the kind of money which Ambani or others can give to their drivers, imagine. Why? Because he owns more. Now, what he owns is comparatively very minuscule as compared to what Krishna owns. So if Ambani can take care of his drivers, his servants, just think how much care my Krishna, your Krishna is going to take care of. That is why we'll be Bindaas. No worries. So Krishna Das, Bindaas, Maya Das, Sada Udaas. And that is a choice which we have. Either to be Sada Udaas or Bindaas. And that is where exactly the whole discussion is. So how can we become Bindaas? For that, we need to avoid these six activities. The third important activity amongst that is Prajalpa, unnecessary talk. The tongue, it cannot remain silent. When we mix with few friends, relatives, we immediately begin talking, even unnecessary talking. And that is where we see the example of the croaking toads. The toad cannot remain silent. It keeps on doing. The result is it attracts the snake. The snake pounces on him and he's end. Similarly, we keep on talking, unnecessary talk, whether needed, not needed, any topic, and we have our views ready to talk about it. The result is we are slowly inviting death. Please come. I'm not using my body, my tongue, my whatever strengths I have appropriately. Take me away, just like a crow. Why even talking? Even reading of the newspapers, magazines, novels, solving the crossword puzzles. Many times we find people just sitting alone and playing cards, or going in for fishing, hunting, busy with the best idiot box of the world, the television, or the socio-political debates. Thus, simply wastage of valuable time and energy. The result is we waste the opportunity that we have. So talking is just not speaking. And since it is not only speaking, we saw in the first verse that remaining silent is not the solution. The solution is not to waste valuable time and energy and talk only about Krishna consciousness. Talk about Krishna. Be busy with Krishna Katha. So Krishna Katha would be something which is spoken by Krishna, that is Bhagavad Gita. Or about Krishna, his story, that is Srimad Bhagavatam. That is what we have to be always engaged in. Like right now what we are doing. We are all not doing Prajalpa. We are actually attacking Prajalpa. And this is something which we need to continue now for 24 hours. That is importance of this. And similarly, coming to Jana-sangah. Jana-sangah refers to associating with persons who are not ready to surrender to Krishna. Prabhupada ji said we should strictly avoid such association. In fact, Narottam Das Thakur ji has advised us to live only in association of Krishna conscious devotees, Bhakta Sanevasa, so that we can always be engaged in the service of the Lord, in association of the Lord's devotees. See, we have this famous English proverb, birds of a feather flock together. So there's a reason behind it. Because when people are having an association with those engaged in similar line of activities, then that is very conducive to the advancement of those particular activities. Just like businessmen, they keep themselves in association of various business institutes, committees, communities. We have IFIs and so many stock exchanges and committees, trade committees. Why do they all come together? So that they can have advancement in their business. The result is these all various associations and clubs, they are for enhancing endeavors which are related to material activities, which will remain here only. When you have a transmigration, they harm them. So that is something which has to be avoided. You have to avoid association with all such people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada makes it very clear. Bhukti kämis. That is, those people who want only material happiness, they are Bhukti kämis. Not good to be with them. Or Mukti kämis. That is, those people who want to be liberated by merging in the absolute Brahman. Or the Siddhi kämis, who want to have mystic yoga powers, perfections. Even all these people. Because finally they will have a fall down. And along with that, they will continue in the transmigration process. That is not what we want. What we want is bhakti, a permanent solution to our problems. And that is possible only with bhakti sanevas. That is, associate and serve with the devotees. So where can we associate? For that we are very lucky. Srila Prabhupada, His divine grace, has formulated this International Society for Krishna Consciousness for all of us today. So we can simply come together. Let those people come together for stock market, chambers of commerce, materialistic plus. Let us all come together for practicing Krishna consciousness, going back home, back to God. The benefit will be that we will have the awakening of the dormant Krishna consciousness, which is lying in our. But at the same time, we have to be very careful about niyamagraha. So agraha, a means eagerness to accept, and agraha, a means failure to accept, and niyama means rules and regulations. So Prabhupada explains that niyamagraha can be wherein we fail to accept the rules and regulations meant for spiritual development. And niyam agraha would be eagerness to accept or accepting for immediate or economic benefit. So when we try to use the rules and regulations as per our necessities or avoiding them as per material needs, that is niyama. All the rules or the laws of the Lord, the laws of nature are meant to make us aware of the need to go back home to Godhead. And that is how we have to look at all those rules, not at how to use them when required and how to avoid them when not required. Because that is exactly what those greedy people are doing. And that is not what we know. We need not have greed at all. So laulyam is something which we have to be avoiding. What laulyam means is desire to expand the mind by even perfecting mystic yoga, or even desire to merge into the existence of Brahman, or to get whimsical material prosperity. So all of that will be included in the category of greed, laulyam. So any attempts to acquire such material benefits or so-called spiritual advancements, that actually blocks or impediments on the path of Krishna consciousness. So all these three types, Bhukti, whimsical material prosperity, Mukti, merging into Brahman or Siddhi, mystic perfection, they are all the roadblocks. They will simply be impediments. They will not allow us to go further into devotional service. And we'll end up concentrating more and more only on how to get better and better wealth. Now, this is not what we are supposed to be doing. We have to ensure that we become better, that how we can go on and improve our life. You are just concentrating on wealth is useless. In fact, that is where Prabhupada goes towards the end of this chapter, wherein he says that the wealth of the world should be used for welfare of all living entities. Because that is what Mother Nature wants. But unfortunately, we don't understand it. What we try to do is, we simply try to poach upon everything. Practically speaking, everyone has a right to utilize whatever is the wealth of the world. And when people learn this art of scientifically utilizing Lord's property, they will not encroach upon another's rights. And that will be an ideal society. So the principle for this ideal society will be what we learned in the Ishopanishad first mantra. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita mahagruda kastasvida dhanam. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. The Krishna Bhaktas or the devotees, they really understand this concept. They know very well that the material world is designed in such a way that it is a proper design. It's designed by complete arrangement of Lord, so that all the necessities of life for all living beings will be completed, without their having to encroach upon the life or rights of one another. But just because of our laulyam, greed, we try to accumulate and we make a mistake. And that is why it is always said, Ma gridha kastisvidadana. Please don't take what belongs to others, because the whole arrangement is affording proper quota of wealth for everyone according to the real. And if you understand this, then everyone can live peacefully, happily, ever after. And that is where the principle of plain living and high thinking comes into practice, which we have seen. Unfortunately, the materialists who don't have faith in plan of God, nor any aspiration for higher spiritual development, they misuse the God-given intelligence to augment their material positions. So they keep on devising many systems, capitalism, materialistic communism, so that they can advance the material position. They're not interested in the laws of God or in higher good. They don't want Ram Rajya, but they want to get the benefit of having created a worshipping place for the Lord Ram. Because then they will get name, fame, but then that is temporary, that is material, not spiritual. So they will be always anxious to fulfill the unlimited desires which they have for sense gratification. And they will be conspicuous by the ability to exploit fellow living beings. These are the actual faults which need to be overcome. So when human society gives up these elementary faults, which are enumerated by Sri Rupa Goswami ji, Atyahar, Prayasaha, Laulyam, then all enmity will cease between men and animals, capitalists, communists, and so. In addition, all problems or economic, political maladjustments and instability will also be resolved. Otherwise, what was the need for one country to attack another country? So all this political maladjustment is because we are not following this principle which is given in this particular shloka. So pure consciousness is awakened by proper spiritual education and practice offered scientifically by the Krishna consciousness. That is why it is very important. So what we lose by avoiding these 6 unfavorable things is we lose the essence of human life. And the essence of human life is plain living and high. We come under the external energy, Bahiranga Shakti, Mayavadi, Maya. We become Maya Das, Sada Udaas. Why? Because we suffer the threefold miseries and repeated birth, old age, disease, and death. So these are the 3 important losses that we are suffering if we are not avoiding these 6 things which are unfavorable to Krishna. We are always going to be Sada Udaas if we are Maya Das. We will not be able to have plain living high thinking. And we'll keep on transmigrating from one body to another and always facing Janma Mrityu Jarava. And so it's a very big loss, because nothing of this is easier Nothing of this is going to give us happiness. It's only going to increase our distress, our sorrow. But if we avoid these 6 things, then there are so many benefits. In fact, the benefits are double. So you have 6 benefits of avoiding these 6 things. One, we'll be able to establish a very ideal society. There will not be any kind of hatred or enmity. So it will destroy any enmity. There will be complete removal of economic maladjustments. All the problems of economic maladjustments will be solved. Instability will be solved. And we'll be able to establish a spiritual community. Just think how peaceful it will be, wherein everyone is not worried. They're only concentrating on how to get out of this cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death. Even Krishna, our Parampita Parameshwar, he'll be so happy. Oh, my child, they're doing all the activities to come back to me. Let me help them more. Because now we become Krishna Das. And that is what is most important. To remain Bindas, we have to be Krishna Das. So the summary is that the Krishna consciousness movement offers a spiritual community that can bring about a peaceful condition in the world. Every intelligent man should purify his consciousness and rid himself of the above mentioned 6 hindrances to devotional service by taking wholehearted shelter of the Krishna consciousness. That is what Prabhupada ji wants us to do. That is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has ordered us. That Jare Dekho Tare Kaho Krishna Upadesh. The moment we fulfill this, we will be able to fulfill his prophecy. That her gram, every gram will have his name. Everyone will start preaching about it. So to summarize, what we have seen in this particular Shloka number 2 is how the 6 problems, they destroy our bhakti. So we started off with Atyahar. So there we saw the analogy of the rice and the birds. We understood about religion, what the actual purpose has to be, and how unfortunately the modern society has changed. We understood the philosophy that businessmen who is reborn as a cobbler. We saw how even kämis, they keep on writing books with no results, or the nannies who keep on writing more and more knowledge with no results. How even welfare work is of no use. So we saw about the communists, the capitalists, and then we understood the actual essence, which is the Upanishad mantra 1, that everything has to be centered on Krishna. Then we saw about Prayash, that is over-endeavoring. The result of the over-endeavor have been brothels, factories, and liquor dens. The result, problem which are created, less time for inquiry. And the solution is simple living, high thinking. Then we saw about Prajalpa. So there we saw the analogy of the frog. Niyamagraha. So agraha, reject rules, enjoy us, and agraha, accept rules or rituals as per me. Jana-sangah, we saw the analogy of stock market, and we saw what Narottam Das Thakurji has ordered us, that is Bhakti Sanevasa. Then for Laulyam greed, we understood whether it is Bhukti, Mukti, or Siddhi, any kind of greed is problematic. So if we avoid this, the advantages is we'll have an ideal society, there will be no enmity, all economic maladjustments will be corrected, there will be political stability, a spiritual community will be established, and that will result in spiritual awakening. And that is where ISKCON becomes important, because it is providing education as well as training. So that is what Prabhupada wanted us to understand and implement successfully. And that is why we have also been requesting all of you, wherever you are staying, you please come together in small groups, 2, 3, 4, start chanting together. The moment you come together, your power doubles. With 2 persons, it is double. With 3 persons, it is triple, because it all gets added up. And that is why right now we are doing the chanting session immediately after this session, so that we do that many number of rounds. And we have to follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions. That Jare dekha tare kaho Krishna. So all of us, when we come together, we'll be birds of a feather flock together. We'll all fly together and we'll reach our ultimate destination and achieve the ultimate objective of this human life, which is Krishna Prem. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhescha kripa sindhu bhayavacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. I'm sharing the attendance link. Kindly mark it and kindly get more and more people to join our sessions henceforth. Do join the sessions even on YouTube. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare